Hello, everyone. So recently, I replayed the Walking Dead season 2 of the Telltale game. Now, I basically said that a lot of people wanted to see Telltale rankings, and I basically said, listen, I need to replay the games before I feel confident ranking them. So that's what I've been doing. I did a few months ago the season 1 characters. Now I'm doing the season 2 characters. And these videos, I will do like a collective video once I've replayed all of them on all the characters and kind of rank all of them. But a big thing for me is I kind of want to take it piece by piece. So season 1, we're just rating them based on season 1. But for this season 2 version, any characters that obviously follow over from season 1, I will also be taking season 1 into consideration. So this is the continuation of their arc. However, I will not be taking season 3 and 4 into consideration. So, yeah. Let's get into it. Now, I've put all the characters in chronological order to how we see them. However, I will say there was like some characters who were just not on here. Like this chart didn't have Jane or Arvro. I was like, wait, what? What's going on? This is dreadful. Also Rita. So I'll link this one in the description, but it's not great. You'll have to add your own pictures if you want to do it properly. So let's get into it. So obviously we'll start off with Clementine. Now there's a couple tiers. We've got love, like, neutral, dislike, or loathe. And I will be basically ranking them not on how I like them. Like if I find the character great, I'll be ranking them based on the character, their arc, and how useful they are to the story. So, for example, with smaller characters who don't really do much, they're obviously not probably going to go in the love, but they might go in the like if what they brought was pretty good and there was not really much more they could do with said character. So, yeah. So, for Clementine, it's obviously a love. I think even with this season being not the best. Now, just to sort of reiterate my opinions on season 2, I think episode 1 is pretty good. Episode 2 is also pretty good. Episode 3 is where things go downhill. And I think episode 4 and 5 are kind of bad. Pretty bad. Now, the fifth one especially feels very rushed because it was rushed. And the fourth one is very rushed as well. Obviously, when they were releasing these, they released every episode like a month or so or something like that, every 2 months. I remember like waiting for every episode back to back, I think on Xbox 360. So, I have I remember this as it was coming out, and it was very frustrating because I remember episode 5 took a long time to come out. But even with the story aside, I think Clementine is pretty solid throughout the entirety of this season. I think her arc is okay. She starts off, the first episode especially is brilliant for Clementine. The whole still not bitten, sewing up her own arm and all that stuff is great. Surviving on her own and kind of being stuck with these people and taken with Carver and then obviously being reunited with Kenny. I think that's great. And the sort of what they were going for with her essentially being forced to put Kenny down or possibly putting Kenny down or allowing him to do some inaction, some immoral inaction or some moral action, I should say, I think is a great way to end her character. And I personally really do like the idea of her having to be the one to put Kenny down. I think that's a brilliant idea. It just was executed terribly. But in terms of like Clementine's character, I think it's pretty solid. I like her character arc overall. I think she's a very, very solid character in this season. So I will say I still love her. Now, Krista, I think this one I'm very neutral on Krista. I think her character's like fine in season 2 and obviously in season 1 as well. It probably is like a brutal. I like the idea of taking her and she's just lost a baby. She's lost Omid. She is just like gone. Like there's not really much for her now, like in life. And I think bringing her to that dark point is pretty interesting. The only problem I have with Krista is I think there should have been a full circle moment. Clementine should have found Krista again after, killing Kenny or whatever it may be. If that decision, eventually occurs. And maybe it could just be like you either exile Kenny or you kill him. Like maybe that's what the decision, instead of it being Jane or Kenny, you have to like let one of them die or you have to kill Kenny or let Jane die. I kind of like the idea of just have Jane die regardless, or whoever it may be, or if you replace Jane with Luke. And then Clementine has the choice, because Kenny's done something really immoral. He's just, like, brutally murdered someone for whatever reason. The whole stupid hide the baby in the car thing, get rid of that. That's dreadful. But I think Kenny should be taken to a point where he does something really immoral. He kills someone out of petty, like, revenge or whatever it may be. And Clementine has the choice to either kill Kenny or just, like, leave him, right? That's the choice. You either leave him because what he's done is dreadful and you go out on your own with the baby, or you kill Kenny for what he's done. I think that should be the option, personally. Something like that. I think that's a good way to end Kenny's character, so... yeah, you kill him. I mean, I do like the Wellington ending as well, with Kenny, like, choosing to let them go. But I don't like the ending where they're all together as a family. I think that kind of a bit undermines the arc a little bit, I feel. But I think what would have been nice is if Krista, like, showed up at the end, right? So Clementine and the baby find Krista. Because how, like, nice full circle that is. Like, Krista lost her baby, and then she loses Clementine in that little scuffle. And then eventually she finds Clementine again with a baby. You know, it is like a full circle moment. I think there's something nice there. And so then Clementine and Krista kind of continue their little adventure, you know, yeah, whatever it may be, you know, and hey, there you go. Maybe she meets Krista at Wellington or on the way to Wellington, whatever it may, it could be whatever. The Wellington thing does have its issues as well. Like, everyone knows about this place. But yeah, that's what I personally think anyway. It would have been nice if Krista came back. How she was included was very open-ended. Like, we don't know if she died or not. I guess she just died because we never see her again. But it is a weird way to end her character. Now, Omid, I actually really like. I think he's charming. And killing him off at the start, I agree with this opinion. I think it was a good move. It really shocks you. It really starts the season off with a bang. He was never like a massive character anyway. He was just like a little chirpy dude, you know, who had a bad leg in season 1. And he was like the optimist, right? And he was cool, and he was fun, and he was charming. And I think just killing him off in that brutal fashion straight off the bat to really hit the tone of the season and, you know, really set it off on its legs running, I think was a good move, and I will defend it. And I know a lot of people don't like it, and they wish Omid had more character development or whatever it may be. And I get that, I understand, but I think killing him off straight away would have been brilliant. I just wish they didn't also essentially kill off Krista like 10 seconds later as well. I know she doesn't technically die, we don't know her fate, but the fact that we never get that revealed in this season or in any season is annoying. I know I said I don't want to talk about season 3 and 4 too much, but I have to in this because it would have been perfect if it went full circle and Clementine found Krista again. But I think Omid's death was good. I like it. So, yeah, I think he's a good character. Michelle, I'm just neutral. She is a bit cringe. She's like, what a bozo. You know, some of her lines are a bit cringe, but I think she's fine. You know, she is just there to kill Omid, really. Sam, I fucking love. Now, is Sam a little bit of a bad boy? That is true. But I think the inclusion of the little dog moment is brilliant. And the fact that it makes sense as well if a dog's going to be really fucking hungry. If the dog's starving and it needs fucking food, and Clementine's, you know, got the food, I can understand the dog, you know, turning against her and fucking, you know, biting her. That makes sense to me, especially if it's really fucking hungry. But as well, it's that bite, of course, causes problems later on for her, and it is a dreadful moment where she has to, you know, she's forced to kill the dog, and then she can choose to be merciful and put it down or leave it there to suffer. I think that's a fucking good choice. I love that. And I think the whole section with Sam the dog is just excellent. Now, I know there was like plans or rumors or whatever it was, like that Sam would be a companion throughout the game. No, I don't like that. I don't want them to change it, because I think that moral ambiguity, that dreadful moment that Clementine goes through, I think that's way more powerful than her having a fucking little pet along the season. I don't really need the pet, okay? I like that moment a lot more. So, yeah, Sam the dog, I love. Then we have these fucking bozos. So we have Ralph. I mean, I guess I'm just neutral. We have, because he's just a dude. We have Winston. I guess I'm neutral. And then, was this guy called... Oh, was this Victor? No, Victor and Winston. This is Winston. Yeah, these are just the dudes that attack Krista and this guy chases Clementine and Clementine kills him, and then this guy is also there, but then later on he's shown to be like shot and he's dying, and Clementine can give him the water. I do like that choice, but I mean the actual character itself is not anything to ride home around. Now Luke I like, but I think I just like. My issue with Luke is I think he's very interesting and intriguing in the first episode. He does come off a little hot-headed at times, but he levels out pretty quickly, and he's like the most reasonable one of the cabin group, right? And Clementine has a really like nice bond with him in the first 2 episodes, and in the 3rd episode, that kind of obviously that's when they get taken to 3rd episode. Yeah, they get taken to Carver's place, right? And we kind of lose that a little bit, but we have, because obviously Luke's, hiding and stuff, but we still have that a bit, obviously, with her and Clementine, like, punching him in the arm and stuff like that. This pretty nice. But then in episode 4, they kind of drop, I think, the dynamic, because they focus more on Clementine and Kenny. And the dynamic in episode 4 isn't as much there. And also, they're focusing as well on Clementine and Jane. I think my biggest issue is there were too many characters in this season, or too many characters that we were trying to focus on Clementine building a relationship with. So I think that hurt the season and hurt Luke's character especially, because what they basically did was stop that bonding with Luke and Clem, and instead of Luke and Clem, we now have Jane and Clem bonding with Kenny and Clem bonding, and that kind of causes the issue for the later episodes where we just don't really care about Luke. And when Luke is on the fucking lake, which is the dumbest death in The Walking Dead, in Telltale at the very least, the dumbest death in Telltale history, Luke on the frozen lake and he falls through, I just don't care. I don't really give a shit. I generally didn't care when it happened many years ago when I first played it, and even on my rewatch, it was replay even, I just did not care, because for those past 2 episodes they did nothing of interest really with Luke, in my opinion, other than he sleeps with Jane, which is like, oh great, and he tries to save Sarah. Like, there's a few moments, but there's no like bonding with him and Clem, or not much anyway. And that's, I guess, my biggest issue with Luke is, yeah, we needed more of that. So I'm just going to put him in the like, because I do really like how they start the character. I just do not like how they end the character. And his death is just random, comes out of nowhere, pointless. It was just a lazy way, a cheap way to kill him off. Now, Sarah, I think I dislike. Now, I understand where they were starting with her in episode 1. She's this naive girl who's been sheltered from the outside world. And she's annoying, sure, but there you go, whatever. You understand why she's annoying, because Carlos has like sheltered her throughout the zombie apocalypse. I think she's even older than Clem, right? And then episode 2, of course, you're in the house with her when Carver comes, and I like all that stuff. That's really cool, and I think she's fine there. She serves her purpose. And then episode 3, all the like Carlos having to hit her and her not wanting to cut the plants and causing issues, and then obviously that gets Reggie killed, etc., etc. I like that too. I think that's fine. I think she's fine in episode 3. And then episode 4, this is where the character is rendered pointless, because ultimately what I want from a character like this is some sort of resolution to her story. Either she gets tougher and she becomes like a badass, right? Or Clem's forced to leave her behind. But what they gave us is, I think, a bit cheap, because they forced her into this situation where she's crying and she's just shut herself down. But that's not what... I think it would have been much better if Clementine was active, right? Active in leaving her behind. Because when she's just sat there and she shut herself down and all of her survival instincts have just gone out the window and she's just sat there moping and she won't move and you have to slap her and all that. Saying that, I think that scene's fine. I think it's what happens later on where she just dies randomly. Like, what is the purpose of the character? Either she becomes tough, or I think Clementine leaves her behind. But I think the fact that they don't give you that proper choice... I don't know. They don't give you that proper choice, I guess. I think I'm trying to think of the best way to explain. Basically, what it comes down to, really, is I find the character pointless. I don't understand what the point of this character was, and how it's meant to reflect on Clementine, how it's meant to reflect on any other member of the group, because it just doesn't, right? It doesn't affect, like, you don't remember Sarah later on. But that character actually had that character's really fucking interesting because it is like a Clementine if she didn't meet Lee. That's what Sarah is. Clementine if she didn't meet Lee and instead was sheltered by her parents. That is what Sarah could have been. And I think if they wanted to have a character like that, cool, but do something with it. But they don't. They have it there as like a tease, and they just don't. And this is what I mean with saying the cast is too bloated in this season. It's too big. There's too many fucking characters. Think of season 1 of Telltale, right? This is why I fucking love most of the characters in that season. Is you have Lee, Clementine, and then you have Kenny and his family. But ultimately, Kenny's family aren't that bigger characters. They're just there to reinforce Kenny. So the main characters is Clem, obviously Lee, Kenny, then you have Lily and Larry, and you have, I guess, like Doug / Carly as a cat, and Ben. 7 characters that I would say were big. And then you have like episode characters like Mark and the St. John's and people like that. I mean, even Larry to a degree is kind of like an episode character. He's in 2 episodes, but do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't do... He's like the second half of 1, and he's only in the first half of 2. Maybe a bit more than the first half of 2, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like, he's not there for that much. Whereas in this season, they decided to have Carlos, who they focus a fair bit on, Rebecca, Alvin, Luke, and then you have like Nick, Pete, I won't count, obviously, and then Jane. On top of that, they add Jane later on. Kenny comes back. It's like plus Clementine, obviously, and then like Sarah and all these other like, and they're focusing on too much. There's too many things here for like a 2-hour, 2.5 hour, 3-hour gameplay. Too many elements, too many characters, and I think Sarah is one that should have been cut. I generally don't see the point of Sarah's character, so I really dislike her. Carlos, I think I loathe. Carlos adds nothing to the story whatsoever, other than being the dad to Sarah. And I think what would have been a much better idea if you want to do something interesting with Sarah is kill off this guy straight away, okay? Have him, when you go out there in episode 2, have him stay at the house in episode 2, and when Carver sees him, he just fucking shoots him in the head, and then, I don't know, Clementine and Sarah have to hide, and Clementine has to calm down Sarah and have her hide. Maybe that's how you do it. I guess Carver probably wants him though for being a doctor, but maybe, I don't know, he whips out a gun out and somebody's about to shoot Carver, so Carver kills him in self-defense. He's like, oh fuck, I needed him, he's the doctor, you know? Maybe it could be something like that. I think kill this dude off straight a fucking way, and then we can get something interesting with Sarah's character. Or alternatively, just cut both these guys. Cuts both Sarah and Carlos. Carlos is the most annoying bastard ever because that dog bite, any doctor would know what the difference between a human bite and a dog bite. So I question his entire medical degree right there. But on top of that, what he doesn't really offer, he's just another person who's hostile towards Clementine. That's all he is. But we have a million of them. Nick is hostile towards Clementine. Rebecca is hostile towards Clementine. They all serve the same beat, and that's why I have like a problem with this cast and like, why I say it's too bloated. I also just don't care for Carlos. Like, what does Carlos bring? Nothing. What does Carlos do? Nothing. He backhands his daughter a bunch, and then he gets shot randomly on the way out, and I just don't care. So yeah, cut Carver. There's no point for him, or at the very least, kill him off straight away so we can do something interesting with Sarah's character. So I don't like this guy. Rebecca, I dislike. Other than her being pregnant, I guess that's what... Maybe I'd say, actually, Rebecca, I think, is just neutral. I do like the fact that Rebecca is pretty hostile towards Clementine. I understand it, because you got to, she's pregnant, hormones, she's just run away from a crazy bastard who I guess she was having an affair with. There's all these, things that are going through, and there's random girl showing up who may or may not be bitten, they're not quite sure. I can understand her being very hostile towards Clementine. So I think that's all reasonable. And I think Rebecca does level out quite nicely later on, and she kind of becomes like an ally to Clementine. And I think her progression there is pretty good. And then the pregnancy and, giving birth, that's a fucking brilliant moment. I think that's the one good moment of episode 4 is the pregnancy and the disaster on the platform and it all falling down. All of that's brilliant. But I think I'm just neutral on her character overall. I think there are some good moments, but nothing to stand out where I feel like Clementine does, or even Omid does, because it's, again, I'm taking season 1 into account with Omid as well. You have to take that into consideration. But or Luke, right? But I think she's fine how she is. and I think neutral's like not a bad thing necessarily as well. You gotta think like I don't think every character is gonna be in the like and love, but I think she serves her purpose like fairly well. So I wouldn't change much about her. Alvin, Alvin I dislike. He's a nice guy, sure, but he does fuck all. That's my problem. He's chill. He's goofy. He's a nice dude. I agree with all these, but what does this character serve? Fuck all. Literally fuck all. He can die in episode 2 anyway. He just gets fucking shot and he's killed in episode 2, and so that basically meant nothing. But even before that, like, you have to like bully him into giving you a juice box and some fucking like bandages. Like, this guy's like a fucking pushover. He asks Clementine to go check out that station. Like, why don't you check out the fucking station, you lazy bastard? He's an absolute bozo, right? He doesn't do anything. He's useless to the group. He's useless as a husband. No, maybe he's not useless as a husband, but he just doesn't do anything really, and that's my problem. And everyone likes to say, well, he's such a nice guy, but then his death kind of feels like if he is killed in episode 2. I mean, that's pretty gut punching, but then nothing happens after that really. He just gets taken away and tortured in episode 3, and then he dies anyway. So I don't know. I mean, that's probably a better death for him because he kind of does toughen up a little bit in his last stand. But what can I say? I'm just not a huge fan. I think, yeah, I'm being mean to him. Pete, I think he's a great first episode character. I don't know if I'd say love. I think I like him. I like Pete. I think he's a great first episode character. I think he serves what he needs to well. You know, he's just the guy to introduce Clementine. He's like the nicest one to Clementine. He is kind of like this father figure, this older figure. And whatever happens, he gets bitten in episode 1. And then obviously he can carry on through to episode 2 where you stay with him until he eventually like helps you escape, and then he dies obviously off screen. So yeah, I think Pete is a great first episode character. I think he's pretty good. I got nothing to really complain about it. Now Nick, I know Red Lemon Cola loves Nick. Red Lemon Cola is a big part of my channel. He's a big subscriber. Okay, biggest fan maybe. Maybe he's got the new biggest fan, and he'd probably put Nick up here. Okay, and I understand. Everyone loves fucking Nick. I'm just neutral on Nick. I think he's okay. I don't hate him, but again, he doesn't really offer that much to the story. I think again he does mellow out quite nicely over after a bit, and I like the stuff with him in episode 2. Obviously, if you decide to help Nick in episode 1, the sort of scenes with him and Clementine, I think they're okay. But I wonder if it would have been better if we cut the cast down a bit, and instead that scene would have been with Luke, right? So we have more bonding moments with Luke. I think Nick is, for me, just another character that could just be cut, but I don't think he really hurts the story. He is just kind of like an extra character there, whereas I feel like Carlos kind of does hurt the story, like logically, and also the pace, like the whole being mean to Sarah. I mean, Nick is also fairly hostile towards Clem, and also I think Nick, actually no, because I do kind of think Nick does have like consequential parts of the story, like him killing Mafia, for example, is like a big part of episode 2, and the sort of tensions between, you know, Walter and Kenny and that group. So I think Nick does have a bigger purpose to serve there. But that's all I really have. I think he's fine as he is. Now Kenny I love. Now I do think they botched it. Actually no, they didn't really botch it, because I think the stuff they botch is the Jane stuff. Now I hate the whole baby in the car, the baby's dead thing. That shit is the most annoying crap ever, and was kind of dreadful. But I think in terms of Kenny's character arc, it was fine. So Kenny in season 1 is a man who loses everything, and he becomes pretty angry, pretty reckless, maybe quite rightly at Ben, and you know he does put his on. And I think a great moment is when he sacrifices it, well, quote unquote, sacrifices himself for Ben. I think that's a great way to end his character in season 1 at least. And then bringing him back, obviously, because they made it ambiguous, so they always left the option open to bring him back. So they brought him back in episode 2. And it was really interesting. I like the stuff for him, and he's mellowed out again. He now has like a new family, so to speak. He obviously has Sarita, and he's in love with this woman. He's got a new woman, and things are going great. But of course, Sarita dies in episode 3, and then in episode 4, we kind of get back to what Kenny was like after Catcher died. He now lost again, and he's being very unreasonable. And Kenny's always like, he's a character, and I know there's that fucking video, we don't talk about Kenny. That video kind of, people say like ruined Kenny's character. And it's a decent video, and I agree with a lot of it, but I disagree with some things. I think Kenny can be a bit, it's somewhat manipulative at times, but I don't think it's like, but how do I put it? It's like not malicious. I guess manipulation is always malicious, but Kenny ultimately his goal is not to control. His goal is to protect, but he just goes about it wrong in a lot of times. And I think his grief is something where his version of grief is to basically take it out on other people somewhat, and he does take it out on Clementine, and I think that does make me despise Kenny a little bit at times. But I think his fucking character arc in this season is brilliant. He's broken again, and he does he finds this baby. Oh my god, I've got new hope. This is like the cycle of Kenny, right? He has family die, he goes crazy. He has new girlfriend, girlfriend dies, he goes crazy. He gets new baby. Baby dies, or supposedly dies, Kenny go crazy. It is a good cycle, but the way that they force him into the final bit with the baby may or might not be dead scene, I think was very forced, but I think it's still like good in terms of where they were going. I just wish that was not as clunky and kind of random, like, oh, the baby's dead, but Jane puts it in the car to prove something to Clementine. Like, I think Clementine knows Kenny a bit better than you, Jane. Feels a bit random. Now, how would I fix this necessarily? I think instead of like her putting the baby, I think the baby is crying. Jane's carrying the baby. She decides to leave the baby somewhere, like somewhere-ish, safe-ish, right, in order to kill the walkers or some shit like that. And Kenny, the baby almost gets killed. Something like that. Maybe, I don't know if that's how it would be. I'd probably cut Jane, to be quite honest, and have that be with Luke. But something practical that maybe puts the baby at risk, but also protects everyone else. And so they put everyone else's life above the baby's. And that's what makes Kenny snap and attack them. And I think Kenny should be the unreasonable one, not Jane. Yeah. Something like that. I don't know. I need to think properly. Or maybe we swap it. I don't fucking know how you fix it, but it is clunky. But I do like the idea of having to either put Clenny down or to exile him or just leave him. I think that's a good way to end Kenny's character personally. And yes, so he can be alive or dead. I think that's leaving that to the players. I think is a good idea, and it's open ended. But yeah, I mean, to summarize, overall, I think Kenny's arc was pretty good in this season. And yes, I might not think Kenny's a brilliant, amazing, perfect person, but I think his character is one of the strongest in Telltale. Is how I will conclude. Now, Sarita, I think she's pretty chill. She is just kind of like that Catcher replacement, though, where she is just this chill lady who obviously is attached to Kenny, and her entire purpose is to eventually die. And I think how that purpose she serves well. So yeah, I mean, I don't have many complaints about her. Walter, I think I like too. Again, what is his purpose? It's pretty much to have this moral moment where Clementine can choose to condemn Nick to death, or to somewhat lie or embellish his character, or see through it, whatever you want to put it, or see through that he's actually a good person, or lie to protect him, whatever way you think Clementine is doing. But yeah, I think that is a cool way, and I think Walter is also just such a chill guy and such a relaxed guy, and it is kind of brutal that this dude loses the one person he loves, and I think that all that reveal was done really well. The build up to it, where you fucking figure out, oh shit, the guy we killed on the bridge is this guy's boyfriend. Oh no, what's gonna happen now? And yeah, I think that's great. And yeah, he does get killed off the next scene, but that's what he is. He's a one-episode character. He doesn't stay around and bloat the cast. He's there. We deal with him. He's dead, and I think that's fine. Matthew, I guess I would say neutral, because he is just there to be shot on the bridge. But I think what he brings through Walter is great, and I think I've more praised Walter for this because, obviously, yeah. But he is just a catalyst, really. His death causes something to happen. And that's not to say that I prefer him to Nick or anything. I'm just trying to say, in terms of how he hit the story. Yeah. Carver. Now, this one might be a controversial one. I loathe him. I actually loathe Carver. The reason why is So what makes a good villain, okay? and this is what I think I need to like say, okay? So what makes a great villain is I need to understand why they do their villainous things. So for example, with the governor in the television show, I understand why the governor is the way he is, okay? He lost his wife in a car crash. He then only had his daughter. His daughter then, of course, gets killed or whatever, and she turns into a zombie. And now he's got this town, and he's got Milton looking for like a fucking cure or whatever it is to try and help his daughter. And he's got this attachment to his daughter, and he can't let her go because he doesn't believe that she is dead. And also, he like kills people, right? Like he kills the National Guard, but he doesn't kill them because he just lol, I want to kill them. He kills them for their equipment, and the fact that I think as well part of it is because he knows he can't control the National Guard. He can't bring them all into the community because they're now going to have a say in the community because his community is made up of just everyday fucking people that he can manipulate, and he's got, you know, his generals or whatever, his top guys like Martinez and Shumpert and Merle, right, that he controls and that are loyal to him. So I understand why he does villainous things, and when he has the prison people, okay, he doesn't like, he perceives them as a threat because they know where, well, he wants to know where the prison is, obviously, and they won't tell, and eventually they tell him where the prison is, so he doesn't need them anymore. If he was to let them live, they would just go warn their friends or help them fight, and he wants to take out the prison because it's close vicinity, it has a connection, but also because Michonne comes along eventually. The real reason why he really wants to attack the prison eventually, I don't know what, I'm trying to rethink like what was his plans with the prison. We didn't really know what his plans with the prison before that, but the real reason he then tries to kill the prison is because, of course, Rick and his group come in and they attack Woodbury, obviously justifiably to get Glenn and Maggie back, but they come in, they attack Woodbury, but the biggest thing, the biggest turning point where the governor kind of really turns into a villain is, of course, when Michonne kills his zombie Penny, right? His zombie daughter Penny. That's when the governor really turns into a villain, because now he's on a revenge plot. He's really pissed at Michonne, and then eventually that's like how the governor is a villain, right? And that's a fucking good villain because I understand him. He's a man who was broken before the world even destroyed, and then he was broken some more when the world went to shit. And then you take someone like Gareth, right, from season 5 and 6. Season 4 and 5. Fuck my brain. The Terminus guy, okay? I understand why he is a cannibal, right? Because his people were really fucking nice and lovely, and they let people in, and then eventually this group attacked them. They did terrible things to the women, and they imprisoned them all, and eventually they got free, they killed them, and they realized that helping people was silly. So they, in fact, just lured people in, and then they fucking ate them, because, you know, everyone's a resource after all, may as well. If you're going to kill people, you may as well not let the meat go to waste. So I understand that, too. I understand why he's a villain. I don't understand Carver. I just don't get it. And they never really explain it, and that's my biggest problem. I guess he loves Rebecca, but why are you so obsessed over a woman who doesn't even like you, like spits in your face, like she hates you? Because of the baby? He wants the baby? Okay, fine, maybe he wants the baby. Why doesn't he just want her? Why doesn't he just take her, right? And not the others? And then it's the way he rules as well. Like, he rules with this iron fist, he fucking shoves Reggie off her. Oh my god, I don't think Bonnie's here. Oh my god, wait. There's no Bonnie. I forgot about Bonnie. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, he like pushes Reggie off the roof, and it's like, why? Why'd you do that? Why'd you like save this guy and give him all these chances just to have him like fuck up because he didn't have some girls cut some fucking trees or some shit? Like, it's kind of dumb. Like, he's evil for evil's sake, and he runs all this like this warehouse with all these people who like live there. Or, I don't know, was it a fucking, like, hardware store? It's a hardware store with all these people who, like, work there, and they all respect him. But why do they respect him? What does he bring? What safety is it? Like, and they talk about this community like it's this big, amazing thing, but they're literally in some shitty hardware store, like, living. It's just kind of, like, boring. Like, he's a boring villain. He's just evil for evil's sake. Now, the first scene with Clem, I think, is great. Great setup. But then, where do they bring him? They just have him turn into evil guy, beats Kenny to the living shit for I guess, I don't know, to exert power. To me, it's just kind of boring as a villain. I just don't care. I just don't care about him. And he could have been really good, but they just kill him off straight away. And I'm like, oh well, whatever. And he's got a great voice. He's got a decent look, but he is just a evil man for evil's sake who really wants baby. He's just a simp. That's what Carver is. He's a simp, okay? Simp for Rebecca. Troy, I mean, I think this guy's just fine. He's like a fine, like, lieutenant guy. Tavia, I generally, like, loathe just because they do fuck all with Tavia. And this goes for all the 100 Days characters. Yeah, they're all down here. Consider them all down here, okay? Because they just do nothing with them, so I don't care. Hank we love. No, Hank, I guess I'm just neutral, but I think Hank's a good meme character. He's just a dude who's there, who has a determinate death, okay? If you save Alvin, you kill Hank. Or if you save Alvin in episode 2 even, you will kill Hank in episode 3. Reggie, I mean, I think he's just fine as he is. He's just dude who's a bit weird, a bit cringe, and then he dies, and it's just to show, oh, Carver's really evil. This is like a fucking trope I really hate as well. Going back to Carver, when villains just kill their own group members, how do we show that this villain is evil? Oh, he's gonna kill someone who didn't deserve it, or he's gonna kill his own man. They do this in season 11 with fucking Pope, and it's like, it's so shit. I don't need to. Oh, they do it with the Whisperers constantly. You don't need to show me a villain's bad by having them kill like someone. You can show it in other ways. And that's what annoys me. He just feels like a fucking cartoon villain, okay? But yeah, Reggie, I think Reggie as a character is fine. Like, yeah. Jane, I'm going to say I dislike. And I don't loathe her, as some fans do. The reason why I say just dislike is as follows, okay? I think Jane had, like, good potential, and there was great story beats with Jane. The problem is they probably should have gone to Luke. And so they should have really combined both Jane and Luke into one single character, and that should have been like someone who teaches Clem, because I do think Luke does kind of come off as a bit surface level at times, like a bit of superficial. Like his backstory I think could have been a bit more interesting, and I think Jane's backstory is great. Like she had this sister that she really fucking cared for, but eventually her sister just keeps slowing her down. Like I think all of that's fucking brutal, and Jane's also got these like crazy survivor skills. Like, you know, she obviously knows the guts trick, and of course she also had, you know, kicking the leg and stabbing them, and she's like a really good survivor too. Like she keeps her hair short. So I think honestly, combine her and Luke into one character, where Luke maybe doesn't know these people as well. Maybe he's only just recently joined the log cabin, okay? So he's only just joined the cabin people. He doesn't know who Carver is. He's not involved in that whole thing, because that makes sense as well, why Luke, because obviously like Luke abandons them, and obviously Carver's like, Luke just ran. You know, if Carver didn't know who Luke was, that would also work quite well as well for like the spy stuff. But you know, him being like a little secret infiltrator. So I think combine them into character. Like Luke's just shown up. He knows he's been with these people for like a week or two. So he's not that invested in them. And, you know, maybe he's like, maybe he helps Clem out the shed, right? Or maybe he's there and he's like, yeah, these people are fucked. I think they're just scared, man. You know, they are just scared. And he can be defending them a little bit. Like, they've got like a pregnant lady, etc., etc. And there's a little girl there. So I understand why they're doing this kind of thing. Clem can be like, I'm the little girl. I'm a little girl too, man. But yeah, have Luke come across as reasonable, but also have him be a survivor and have him have like a little brother or a little sister that he like left behind. And I think that backstory would be good. And then we just have these two bond throughout. And then when we get to the whole Jane and Kenny, instead of Jane and Kenny, it can be Luke and Kenny, or we can do something separate where Kenny just kills Luke out of the blue. There isn't a determined decision. It just happens, and then Clem can choose whether to put Kenny down or not. I think that is a fucking perfect way to bring those two characters together. And so that's why I think there was more potential I saw in Luke than I did Jane. And I think because Luke comes before Jane, that's why I personally favour him, because I think having that on the offset in episode 1, having that bonding starting there is also crucial too. Whereas Jane shows up in episode 3, and you know, when she shows up in episode 3, there isn't that much bonding with Clem. It's only really in it's only in episode 4 and 5 where Jane really starts to bond with Clementine. So in my opinion, that's what I think should have been the case. I think they should have just combined these two characters into one. I just prefer the aspects that Luke brings than Jane, but I think there's definitely parts of Jane that I would transfer to Luke's character. Mike, I fucking loathe. What is the point of this guy? He's just a fucking extra. That's all Mike is. He's an extra, and his decision to go off of Arvro makes zero sense. And also for reference, I know I forgot Bonnie. Blame this person who made this tier. What's his name? This guy. Blame this person. Flightless bird. For reference, Bonnie is also in the loaf. I'll talk about Mike first, but these things are true for Bonnie too. So Mike, of course, comes across just dude who wants to get out. He hates Carver's rule. I understand that. He's an extra dude who's been imprisoned. Why do we need an extra person? I'm not quite sure. So what I personally would have probably would have done with Mike, I just would have had him like freak out in the guts trick and get eaten, okay, and just been an example. There we go. We don't need a whole character, but he sticks around. He doesn't really do much there. He just kind of complains, and he goes to the Civil War Museum with Bonnie, of course. And then, of course, when Arvro comes, he's like, Kenny, stop being mean to the kid. Stop it, Kenny. Stop doing it. You're going to kill the kid, blah, blah, blah. And Kenny is a little unreasonable. Like, he does, like, stop beating the shit out of Arvro in some cases. And, I think Kenny is a bit too hot-headed. But then I understand also why, because Arvro specifically, like, was going to kill them all and steal their shit regardless of having a baby. But then the fact that Mike goes with Arvro, decides to steal the truck and supplies, leaving Kenny along with Clementine, Jane, and a recently born baby, right? But it's the fact that Mike's concern is that Arvro is just a kid and Kenny's wailing on him. But then he's quite happy to leave another kid and a fucking infant absolutely helpless. That's what annoys me about Mike. Now, if they changed it slightly where Mike was like, Clem, I've got the baby here. We're leaving Kenny. He is not the protector you need. Then I could have maybe understood it a little bit. And he's like, well, I'm going to take Arvro because I can't leave Arvro with Kenny. But you can't stay with Kenny either. He's dangerous. That could be interesting, okay? And if you can either call out to Kenny, there's a traitor. There's fucking traitors. And then Kenny will come out and just fucking kill Mike and kill Arvro. I think that would be a good way to do it. Or alternatively, if you decide to go with them, I think Kenny catches you. Right, if you're like, okay, yeah, let's go with you. We'll go with you. And she gets in the truck, and they start driving away. And I think Kenny starts fucking firing shots, and then it kills Mike. The car crashes. Baby's like, wah, wah, wah. And then Arvro, Kenny comes to Arvro and just kills him. I mean, that would have been, because then we're setting up the unreasonable Kenny, and I understand Mike's decision a bit better there. And the same goes true for Bonnie. Now, Bonnie Goss is an absolute traitor. She's an absolute scumbag. She's a snake. She takes all those supplies, and then she helps Carver take everyone hostage anyway. And then she's immediately like, oh, I know the wrongs I did. And this is coming from 400 Days as well, when I found her quite insufferable. Bonnie is down here, okay? Consider Bonnie down here. I just loathe her too, okay? Her character is just annoying and makes no sense. And that's like, it's not even the fact that she does like betray you and then is on your side again. It's more the fact that she flip-flops so much, and then the Arvo stuff on top of that, where she's willing to leave Clementine. She says, I want to right my wrongs in episode 2. But yeah, she's willing to leave a defenseless child and a fucking infant. Fuck Bonnie. Bonnie's down here too. And then we have the Rushkis, the Russians. Arvro, I dislike. I just don't know. The character had potential, but I do like the idea of, instead of these random Russians, them being the 400 Days characters. I think that's a really cool idea. I like that idea. Like, so depending on how many, and you can kill them off in the first episode, that's fine. But like, and maybe like Bonnie instead is your Arvro, or maybe it's what's her name, the girl, Rachel, is it? Shell and Rachel. But obviously that them coming with you is determinant, so maybe not. Maybe that was the way though. Maybe those characters should have been the ones that go regardless, and Bonnie could have been another determinant. But yeah, like, I like the idea of killing off the 400 Days characters here and just having them be like, come out for revenge. But I think Arvro, as he is, I mean, I just kind of dislike him, and where they bring the character is just, he just is annoying. It's repetitive. It's like, oh, there's another thing, and then it's Kenny beating up on him, and maybe that's also a negative on Kenny's character. I don't think Kenny's character arc and his story is completely flawless, don't get me wrong, but I just found Arvro a bit boring, really. I mean, it's just a kid, he's speaking Russian, and it's very repetitive, and I don't think he adds anything. And then with all the other Russian guys like Natasha and Vitaly, and then that dude, I mean, they're just there as cannon fodder, really. They're just there to die. Oh, God, I'm so annoyed I forgot Bonnie. I thought I got all the characters. But yeah, Bonnie's also down here. Bonnie down here, okay? Bonnie down here. So, yeah, that is it. That's ranking of all the Season 2 Telltale. Sorry if I'm a little bit rambly. I'm like on a tight schedule. I've got no time, so had to allocate this like hour or so to doing it, but I'm also like on very little sleep, so if I'm a little rambly, if my head's a little all over the place, and if it is a bit tricky to watch, I understand, okay? But for any of you who like the rambles, I'm sure you'll be fine with it, or anyone who listens whilst driving or at work or whatever, which I know some people do, then I appreciate you. But if you're going to leave a comment saying, dude, edit the videos, I mean, these videos are not made to be edited. If I edited these videos, I would have no fun with them. And I just want to say that like at the end, because I do get comments sometimes where people are like, you need to edit these videos, or get your points across better, or to write a script or whatever. The problem is these videos, if I did that for these videos, then there would be less of them. I would have maybe one of these every 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, maybe even every month, because I don't even write a script for my lore videos. I just go off the cuff, and if I stutter, I'll like edit that out. But writing scripts and editing it's too much work. I'm not a full-time YouTuber, okay? I do this as like a little hobby on the side, and if people enjoy it, I get it. But if you really like that, okay, you can do a little super thanks, and maybe I'll think about it. But no, that's fine. You don't have to. This is just a thing I do, is I just like to ramble on and on and on, and which is what I'm doing now. So let's just cut the video here and say thank you for watching. Tell me your thoughts and who is your favourite Telltale character. And yeah, the season 2 was a bit different to the season 1. There were a lot of characters down here. Maybe I was too harsh on Alvin. Maybe I just put Alvin in neutral, thinking about it. Yeah. I'll probably just put Alvin in neutral, thinking about it. He's just kind of there. He doesn't really do much. He doesn't really hurt the story, though, necessarily. So I think I just see a lot of people like give Alvin love, and it annoys me. So it really just comes down to that. But yeah, these guys I dislike. These guys I loathe. And I don't dislike Arvo because he's a bad guy. I dislike Arvo because he's a bad character. He doesn't really add anything. And the fact he betrays you regardless if you steal the medicine or not, or let him have it. Fuck that guy. Evil. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, bye.